Hallo everyone.
Ga je Minecraft video maken?
Yes, I'm gonna make a Minecraft video. I'm gonna make a video about my azalia farm.
Oh.
Hello everyone, welcome in my redstone testing world. There's a lot of things that I would like to show here, but this video is about my most impressive design probably, which is this azalia farm. And here I have it cut up into 3 or 4 parts so that I can show everything. This is the proper working design. There's a lot of things that go into an azalia farm. First of all, the mechanics. So in Minecraft, if you let lava fall on top of water, then you get infinite stone blocks, which is relevant. Because if you have a moss block and you bone meal it near stone, then it has a chance to turn into moss and it has a chance to grow an azalia sapling. And crucially, if you destroy whatever is on top of the moss, new things can grow. So if you try enough times, you can always get an azalia sapling. If you've grown an azalia sapling on this moss block and you bone meal the sapling, then it turns the moss block into rooted dirt, and it will always turn these 2 air blocks into a log block. With this process you can turn bone meal into infinite wood and rooted dirt. I have this command block here set up to always remove any block that gets pushed in here. And this is the on button on my azalia farm. If I press it, it will start pushing out logs and dirt. And now it presses some more logs through, and soon it will start pushing dirt, yes. And now it will go into trying to make new saplings, which it does over here. It flushes away everything that is not a sapling. Not on these blocks, but on the blocks inside of the machine. So this is inside of the machine. And what it does is, here it wants to grow the saplings. And then these observers over here detect approximately how many saplings have grown. And they feed that information into this fileable pulse extenders. And they count up with this machine how many saplings have grown. And then by setting this book, you can ask the machine to go to the next phase after a certain amount has grown. And the next phase is, we just missed it, is bone mealing the saplings. Here. And then removing all the logs, refreshing with new stone, and turning this stone into moss. And now it's in the grow phase again. So now it wants to grow saplings. And this is not the best azalia farm that is out there. The one by Ilmango is a lot better in terms of speed and performance probably. But this is the only one that I know of that actually monitors how many saplings have grown inside of the farm. So let me go to the other versions of the farm so that you can more easily see what's going on. This part of the farm is just the log pushing mechanism. If I press these command blocks, it will fill these 2 slots here with rooted dirt and logs. And notice that everything above where the trees grow, so from here on above, is only allowed to be wood. So there's no redstone components allowed to be in this part of the machine, because otherwise trees won't be able to grow. And that's one of the things that you have to think about while designing this machine. So let's say some logs grew and some logs didn't. So this would still be a moss block. If we flick this lever, it will push up some logs, pull these back in, and then start moving them. And and the logs are routed all the way through the machine. There's a complicated reason for that. Now they're all replaced by stone, and we've gone through a cycle of the machine. So this part is just the pushing part. The most impressive part of this is probably the pulling of these log blocks. That gets done by these pistons over here. This copper block is actually part of the working of the double piston extender. Because I have to pull them from 2 blocks away, I eventually want to power this block in one part of the cycle, but it's probably easier to show later when I show you a single tile of the machine. So for the rest, this is just a stone generator. The stone gets looped through here. Up here is just a machine that pushes the logs into a block stream, and then they get cycled back through the machine because I always want to fill this row with blocks. Otherwise my piston setup won't work. And then this is just to change the way that the dirt blocks get routed. In case you want to make mud, for instance, you can put a mud making machine there. Okay, this is the detection part of the machine. I see that I didn't clear it out with the magic of editing. This new redstone torch looks weird. So this chest has a silo of bone meal. It gets distributed to these dispensers over here, and that's to feed the trees. And these dispensers over here, they feed they trigger the moss to grow new trees. If I clear out all the saplings and I press, oh, where did I put the start switch? I think here. If I press this, then you will see the machine starting to try to grow saplings, and then these redstone lights over here are where the machine thinks a sapling has grown based on the pulse detector. So it will take a bit before it realizes, yeah, now it knows, oh, and it basically just waits for when it hasn't seen a pulse in a while, then it gets suspicious, then it thinks, oh, that must have been where a sapling has grown. And sometimes it doesn't function perfectly. But at the end of the machine there's also a pulse detector that cancels out this signal over here. So the little flickering doesn't cause a bug in the machine, basically. I don't know what it's set to now. So when it's satisfied, it will try to bone meal them, but they won't grow because of these glass blocks here. This is when it's satisfied. And that can be edited here. So now it's set on 4, and 1 means all, 11 is none. So if we set it to, let's say, 9, then it should be satisfied at 2 saplings, I think. Does this clear the saplings? Yes. Boom. Oh, boom. So now it should be satisfied at 2 saplings. That's 1. And now it detects it. Oh, that's 4. Sometimes you get lucky. And now it does 1 more round just to be sure. And then now it should be satisfied. Yes. And well, that's the basic idea of the machine. So if you put that one and this one together, basically squish it in there, and you can see I copied it from the final design so that it perfectly fits. Then you have the entire machine, and you just cycle one into the other. So it goes from the grow stage to the push stage, back and forth. So how did I design all of this? Here you see one slice of the machine, and the machine is actually alternating tileable, which means every other tile fits into every 2 tiles it repeats. But the only parts that have to be alternating are the pulse detector, so that this redstone doesn't connect. So there's 2 pulse detectors back and forth. But in terms of the grow stage and the push stage, nothing is alternating, I think, only the pulse detector. So how does this whole thing work? Now we can look at the push mechanism in detail, which is a lot of fun. Let's say that you have 2 blocks here. The first thing that needs to happen is that the dirt pushes up. Then the next thing that needs to happen is, oh no, I can't remember. The next thing that needs to happen is this block needs to get pulled backwards. So that should be this lever. Yeah, that's just a double piston extender. Then it needs to get pushed up. And then this thing needs to reset and pull this purple block back, so it replaces the log where it was. To do that, it has to both push and then quickly push this block in between, and then that powers from above, and that powers this piston when it's over here. So that looks like this. And this all had to fit in here while not blocking the trees from growing. So there were no tree blocks allowed to be above the tree growing block, which is this stone here. And then also there had to be an open channel for the water to be able to flow through. If I flick this lever here, you see that there's water that has to be able to flow through here and also be detected, of course. So it was a bit of a struggle to fit this all in one single tile. If we can see it in action once again, the machine of course does all this flicking back and forth, and that's also how I designed it. I first made sure that every single stage worked, and then I made a computer that activated every stage one by one. This is why Minecraft is very good at teaching you how to become an electrical engineer, I think, because you have to think through all these you have very similar challenges. You have to first design the hardware, and then you have to design the software that runs it, basically. Maybe it's a stretch, but this last stage is just so satisfying. I don't even remember. Oh yeah, so in the retracting phase of this double piston, the reason that the block doesn't go in between is because this piston is already extended. And it pulls or something. Oh yeah, there's an obsidian here to block it from pushing when this piston is in there. That's why in the first phase this block doesn't go up. That's the way it actually functions. If you take a look at the first phase again, this piston still gets powered, but it doesn't function because this block is in the way and this obsidian blocks the pushing. So if we power it, you can see it gets power briefly, but it cannot push. But then once this is out of the way, it can, and it will pull this next block. And then you can see that this pillar basically gets pushed up, and at the top it gets removed and sent to the blast chamber when it's functioning. So that was my azalea farm. I quickly want to show it in my survival world where I build it, so that you can see what it looks like when hooked up to a blast chamber. So this was a survival world that I had with a friend of mine. Here you see my spruce tree. It's a skyblock world. And here is my moss farm. Yeah, this is not very user friendly. This is my moss farm. Also not as good as El Mango's, but it looks a lot cooler, I think. And it's a lot more difficult to break it accidentally. It's quite robust. It has a cool design actually. It uses this sequential pushing mechanism. But it creates a lot of bone meal for me that I can feed into my azalea farm, which I made this nice structure around. Well, nice. This part is nice, I think. I'm not a very good builder, but I did my best on this one. So here you see the top of the thing where the blocks get pushed. In here is the whole farm. It's a bit difficult to see in survival. This is why I showed it off in creative. But if I turn it on, then hopefully it will start pushing soon, because the pushing phase is the one that it ends on. I hope that the blast chamber is not broken. Yeah. And here you can see the blocks get pushed into this blast chamber. That I also, yeah, it's a very simple design. So now you see that it, yeah, it blows up some of the blocks. They just get funneled in here. This is where I collect them. And it automatically, oh, it's filled with clay. Of course, you can turn the rooted dirt into mud, and you can turn the mud into clay, which I do over here. And that was my azalea farm. If you want to see more in-depth things, if you want a light Matica blueprint, I can upload that if anyone is interested. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!